Hello, Namaskarundi. Welcome back to another video. So in this series, it's actually named as Unfiltered Talk with Toppers. This video will give you an idea as to how you can actually prepare for the CAT exam, given there is only a few weeks time in front of us. So yeah, this will be a video where I'll be chatting with one of my friends, and we'll be taking you guys through our experience, how it was for us during our CAT time, and mostly it will be a candid and unfiltered conversation. So yeah, welcome back once again. This is Google V Sunil. Let's get directly started with the video. So yeah, let's start with the video. So today I'm mainly focusing on CAT exam, and also we'll try to make it different videos into different videos pertaining to different sections. So today we'll mostly start with QA section. So here I have with me my dear friend Murli, who will be discussing these things with us in today's video. Hi Murli.
Hey Gokul.
Hi, bro. So about Murli, we have been together in SPJMR for the past 2 years. He's a very close friend, and he's actually a topper. He's 99 plus in multiple sections in CAT. So mostly more than me, he'll be the right person for you guys to, get into that topper mentality. So I thought I'll invite him for the video, and this is the first video we'll be having. But yeah, we are starting with QA. And before that, Murli, why don't you introduce yourself briefly about yourself and everything to the audience? Yeah, over to you.
Thanks, thanks a lot, Gokul. Brings me back memories of the days we sat for interviews. Hi guys, my name is Murli. I did my PGDM in finance from SPJMR, batchmate of Gokul. I scored a 99.3 in my second attempt in CAT, having not gotten to any of the institutes in my first attempt. In my second attempt, my sectional scores, just so we are more in context regarding the CAT preparation itself, I scored a 99.7 percentile in quantitative ability, and I scored about a 98.5 in DARC, and DALR was kind of the dud there. So let me not get into the percentile there. But overall, I scored a 99.3 and I got into SP. And it's been an eventful 2 years there. And after that, I've been working with Hindustan Unilever as one of their management trainees in the current cohort.
Man, but before going further, man, you got 99.7 in quant.
Yeah,
Bro, then what was the score like you had?
I had a 99.3 overall. Like I said, DILR brought down my chances actually. I
No,
had an
what was your
84
score in
percentile. Hmm.
quant?
Oh, Quant sectional was around 48, I guess. 46 or 48, if I'm not wrong.
48.
The
Okay.
scaled score. The scaled score was 48 or something.
Oh, nice, nice. It's like around
Yeah.
15, 16 questions, right?
15 questions, yeah. Yeah, I answered 16 questions right. One question was an error. That too was a numerical integer type question, so I didn't have a negative over there. So I scored a
Oh,
45 in the section out of a total of 26 questions, I guess.
yeah, I
And that
think, yeah.
scaled up to 47 or something, 47 odd. Yeah.
So, like, if you are looking at it, it's like 100% accuracy. Wow.
Sort of. That's
Yeah.
actually something that I was going for in quant because the previous year I had made the mistake of attempting too many questions and getting a lot of negatives actually. So if you see my previous year, quant was my weakest section. I had the best score in DILR and VARC
Oh, nice.
actually.
Yeah.
So quant was the dud over there, but this time I wanted more of accuracy, so I switched towards accuracy. It was almost 100% accuracy there.
It's kind of same for me also, bro, but not in this case. It was the other way around. So I thought VRC was
Yeah.
my, deadly kind of a thing. But when towards the
Mm-hmm.
exam, VRC was kind of constant, but quant was something that
Yeah.
was very troublesome for me. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally up to the individual, like how it is and how it is panning out. So yeah, like
Sure.
we'll focus more on QA now. So
Sure.
how I have just planned about this video is, bro, like we'll mainly focus on three things. That is what, in my
Mm-hmm.
perspective, I've thought in the last few weeks people should be, focusing on. So I won't be like
Mm-hmm.
telling them, it will be hard for us to, tell people like, okay, you have to start preparing for one specific
Yeah.
topic, you have to cover arithmetic fully and all those stuff, which eventually I think most of the serious people would have done that. So I thought
True.
we'll cover three main things, and I want your views and maybe the experience that you had during your last period of time in CAT preparation in these three aspects. One is the strategy bit. How should you attempt this particular section, QA section? What was your strategy? What did you feel worked out for you? And also what you felt which didn't work out you maybe this time or also the previous time that like that you mentioned the previous CAT attempt, what didn't work for you at that point of time. Second will be on the practice front. Do you want to practice at this stage of your preparation? Do you have to take mocks or you have to practice sectionals, all those kind of things? And third will be more kind of a mindset point of view. Like how should you attempt CAT as a test? Like how should you prepare your mind to attempt it? Be it taking mocks in the right slot of your actual D-Day and all those things. So yeah, that is how I have planned out, but you can pitch in
Got it.
whenever you want, all the stuff, bro.
Sure.
So yeah, starting
Absolutely.
off with a strategy, Murli, like how was your strategy? So you have been aiming for like 45 plus and everything in your exam. So it will be an entirely different strategy unlike mine. So I'll be also curious to know. So like why don't you like let's chat through that. What was your strategy?
Why not let me take it to a comparison of what I did wrong in my previous year and compare it with this year? And QA being the section that was the weakest in my first year and being my strongest in the second year, I think I have developed or rather improved the most in this section.
Perfect.
Okay,
That will be
so
perfect. Yeah.
regarding my strategy, I think the first thing that I got around better in the second year was conceptual clarity. My first CAT attempt was not that serious. I wanted to get into a B school really, but my attempt was not that serious, mainly because of the situation prevailing at that time. COVID was a major factor at that time, and my household was particularly hit a lot because I come from an entire family of doctors. So it was a very confusing time around that time. So my preparation kind of took a hit in that time. So I was not able to get a lot of conceptual clarity at that time. Rather, what I stuck to was a lot of sectional tests without even understanding the full concepts or the ways through which I can optimize time and solve a question.
Mm.
So it got to a point in the first year where either I was able to attempt a lot of questions with very poor accuracy, or I was able to attempt very limited questions and took a lot of time choosing the right question. So I chose the wrong questions and spent a lot of time on it, which is a common mistake people do. But around the second time, what happened was I was very clear on which areas were my strongest, which ones were my weakest. For example, if I have to quote, geometry was my weakest section. And anything that involved the calculation of, let's say, an angle or something like that, or anything that involved a figure, a geometrical figure in the question, kind of made me panic. So
Okay.
I consciously chose to kind of put that a little towards the back seat and focus more on arithmetic, where I was the strongest, in fact. Arithmetic and algebra, in fact. So these were my strongest sections. I decided to focus on that. And
Okay.
geometry took a little bit of a backseat there. But speaking about the last mile prep to CAT itself that was where I practiced a lot of questions, because during my conceptual clarity, getting my concepts clarified, at that time I did not practice a lot of questions. I was taking mocks at regular intervals, but I
Yeah.
was not taking sectional tests around that time. So sectional tests, I started them off only about, let's say, around a month or so to the examination.
Okay.
But there also, I will add a point. I did not do sectionals 2 weeks to the examination. So in that entire span of 2 to 3 weeks, I completed all the sectional tests beginning a month before the examination. So let's say it was October 15th, and
Mhm.
between October 15th and October 30th, I had completed almost all sectional tests.
Okay.
The last mile preparation was only analyzing the areas, or rather the questions that I had done incorrectly in all these tests I had attempted so far, both sectional as well as the mock tests.
Okay.
So that I what I did was I noted down all these questions in a separate notebook, or rather took a screenshot. I still have the folder of those screenshots where I had made a mistake and the solution of it. I revised that in the last few weeks to the examination.
Okay.
And more from a conceptual perspective also, I had actually taken notes, one pager, two pager notes of each of these lessons. And those were also something I was revising. All the formulas, all the tricks and tips also, which they were giving to solve a particular question. I was trying to do that as well at that time. So these were the only two things which I did in the weeks preceding the examination, 2 to 3 weeks before the examination. I did not try to stress myself at all. I was just
Okay.
going through the questions I had done incorrectly. I was revising the conceptual sheets I had prepared, and mocks, of course. Mocks, I kept taking them till a week before the examination. So mocks were going at a separate line. So I was not troubling that at all. But apart from that, particular for QA, these were the only two things I did.
So if I have to sum it up, so what I have understood from this thing, first thing was your conceptual clarity. So that was a given that you will be suggesting, like conceptual clarity should be there. But again, we don't know how much it will be relevant at this point of time. So like we
Yes.
are giving that as a given. Whatever concept you have covered, you are set in that. You should
Yeah.
have a clarity in that.
Right.
Second thing was your focus on your strong areas than focusing on your weak areas. So you are
Yep.
making your strong areas more strong rather than just focusing on the weaker area. Then third, the most important thing that you mentioned was to analyze whatever you have done wrong in your previous attempts and sectionals, especially sectionals, and then maybe noting it down. And even I have heard, like, and I've experienced also ki cat may they'll have some kind of questions throughout all the years of cat. So people would have
Yeah.
suggested that, okay, find
Exactly.
patterns. Some questions will repeat. So it will be a good practice to, if you're seeing a lot of questions quite often, just note that down and, practice that quite often. Most probably you will see some number changes in that question and you'll end up seeing that question in the CAT exam. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
focusing on your previous examinations and understanding your mistakes and moving on. And last
Yeah.
one is your practice bit. You have mentioned mocks, exams, as well as all the other preparation that you'll be doing. So that will
Yeah.
be the entire strategy summed up, if I would,
Yeah.
and now, okay,
That's it.
this is, I think, I people would have got in a nutshell how you should focus on the few weeks towards CAT. Now coming into the CAT exam itself, bro, like in terms of attempting the CAT exam, was there any strategy that you were following? So there were different strategies which will be discussed, especially the ABC strategy. I don't know. In IMS, it used to be the one that was followed. अभी देख
Yeah.
बाद में छोड़ दो वो
Yeah.
kind of thing. So you'll do
Correct.
the easy
Correct.
one first, the kind of middle ground wala you'll keep it for the later things. And if you don't know the concept and you don't know how to solve, you'll leave that. So there was a strategy like
Yeah.
that. I followed
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
completely different strategy. I thought I'll go through all the questions first in a glance and I'll just mark whichever that I could attempt. So it was a different strategy for me. So like
Mm.
that, in terms of attending the particular section, what was your
Mm.
strategy? Is there any like input?
I'm very thankful that you brought this up because what I did was a mix of what you mentioned, both the strategies that you mentioned, in fact. So as soon as I got to the quant section, and you have to note that I had a really terrible DILR section previously. So quant was my do or die there. So what I did was I immediately went through all the questions. I marked the questions whichever I knew were doable. I just marked those questions. I also, in my mind itself, I kind of made a split between the questions which I had not marked, basically, the questions which I'll be coming back to later. I decided that these are the questions that I'll be attempting. So basically, the same ABC strategy, I did that by the glance of going through the questions in one round.
Sure.
Okay, so it's like I'll go through the questions 4 times basically in total. So what I'll do is first time I'll just look at all the questions, mark the ones which are easy. Second round of going through the questions, I'll come to the questions I had marked. I will solve them all. These are the easy ones, the nitpicking, the very simple ones, easy apples. Next one will be the questions that I hadn't marked. I'll come to those questions which I knew were, let's say, confusing at around that time. Let's say the medium difficulty ones. I will go through them, sit for some time, and do those questions. The
Okay.
questions which I would leave are basically the ones which come from either my weakest concept, which is geometry in my case. I left all the geometry questions for later, or the questions which are very lengthy. As in,
Mhm.
I would read the question and I'll know that this is not something it's worth spending too much time on for right now. So those are the only two kinds of questions which I'll leave it for the very end.
Okay.
basically. So this it's the same ABC strategy which I followed, but the only thing was I marked the questions in my mind even before starting off with the section itself.
Yeah. And I think specifically here, since you are aiming for that 99.5 plus category, the C part of this ABC won't be that bigger for you compared to people like me and everything, because you won't leave a lot of questions, right? There'll be a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if you are getting 6, 7 questions right, that I think, given the difficulty of the CAT exam is also increasing. Even last year, it was quite
Yeah.
difficult section, everything.
Mm,
5, 6 questions,
mm,
aram se you'll get 90% and everything. But
yeah.
if you are a topper looking at 99.5 and 100 percentile plus, the questions that will be leaving will be quite kind of lesser compared to others. So here the
Plus,
decision.
those are the questions I think that make the difference also,
Yeah.
because
Right.
there will be some questions which will be very they'll be twisted for a reason. If you read
Mhm.
through the question, you'll understand that they are pretty simple. That's the case with DALR every time. In fact,
Yeah.
my DALR, I lost it only because I didn't choose the right question. There was a
Right.
very simple question from the concept which I did not like. It was arrangements. I
Mhm.
was really scared of arrangements, so I didn't want to do that. But
Got it.
after the examination, after attempting the other question, which was horrible, I went through the question once again in the evening. And at that time, I realized that that question was a sitter.
Yeah.
Had I overcome my fear of arrangements and I had not made that judgment call then, I'd have probably scored that DALR also. So 6 questions, I would have just got it at a stretch. I was able to solve it in 5 minutes after the examination.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was all like it's all very situational there.
Yeah.
But I think that one question which you think is going to be challenging, which you will leave it at first glance, if you go through it, only then you'll realize that it's sometimes it could be a very simple question, just concealed in a way that it appears to be difficult.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
So like before we move on to the next bit, I think strategy wise, it's almost clear, like in terms of both your strategy as well as mine, even though it's kind of twisting to a different kind of goals per se, but it's more like
Mm,
finding the right questions and answering it without wasting your time. And
yeah.
so especially in terms of engineers and people who love to solve problems, we kind of get attached to the question. So that is this is something
Yeah.
that will be a huge problem for many of us. Like after starting a problem,
Correct.
we will find the end and then only we will move forward.
Yeah.
That's the most
Yeah.
ridiculous
Yeah.
thing, and I have experienced this. So even I have done multiple cat attempts.
Absolutely.
Once you like
Absolutely.
kind of same in life also, right? Once you figure how to move
Yeah.
on, then only you will succeed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in terms of
Yeah.
strategy, I think guys like that will be the kind of thing that usually everyone follows. I think you can build your own strategy, but it's more like finding the right questions and solving it if I want to sum it up. Now, like quickly moving on to the next bit, which is the practice bit.
Mm,
So
mm,
here, I'll give you my particular, not advice, bro. I mean, I'll give you my
mm,
perspective. So initially, when I was preparing on most of the coaching institutes and everything, they'll tell us, okay,
mm,
don't prepare and don't, uh, you know, uh, like solve questions and everything towards the last one
mm,
week or 2 weeks to the exams, because you will
mm,
be
mm,
tensed and all those stuff. Especially in
mm.
the last one week, don't do a lot of problems, especially mocks and all those stuff, because it will just chill around and attempt
Yeah.
carefully. I mean
Mm,
that kind of
mm,
thing. That
mm.
perspective is there, but that didn't work out for me, bro. Like honestly,
Okay.
I think mostly it will be that B-Tech mentality that we all had. We'll study at the last moment during the exams. It will be a condition kind of a thing. So I always
Yeah.
believe, other than just leaving everything and focusing on something else and attempting cash fresh in a fresh manner, I found out that even though you are not, practicing a lot, a little practice, even at the like the for the the eve of CAT exam will also be something that will be working for. That's work for me in my
Mm,
perspective.
mm,
Even though I
mm,
won't
mm,
solve like 100 questions and everything, maybe 10 questions, even just one day
mm,
before the CAT, I'll
mm,
revise
mm,
my concepts and everything. Maybe it will be my mindset and everything. I'll love your inputs on this. So yeah, in terms of
mm.
practice, like how was your strategy and everything in terms of practice?
It was the other way around. So it kind of overlaps a little with your next section that you mentioned, also mindset, right?
Okay.
So my first attempt at CAT, I scored a 99.5, which is almost a 0.2 percentile higher than my second serious CAT attempt.
Hmm.
So my first one was a casual attempt because I still remember. a couple of weeks to the examination, I had a lot of problems at home, internal issues and personal issues going on at around that time. And I was not able to focus a lot at that time. And I had almost given up for that attempt, basically. And
You
I just did my
or sorry to cut you, but in this particular moment, no, bro, people will be like, okay, casual with casual attempt with a lot of things going on. This guy is like, okay, with all these problems, I got only 99.5 and all those stuff. Where
okay.
people
No,
with
no, 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 no.
multiple
That's
serious attempts are like,
no, no, no.
trying to
So
like,
see, that the thing is, it's a very situational exam. That's all I can say about CAT. You never go in there expecting a 99 percentile, and sometimes you might get a 99 percentile. And the next year you will be prepared for, let's say, a 99.9 or even a 100 percentile, and you will end up scoring much lesser than that. So I don't think it works on just the probabilities of what you have done so far. But the point I'm trying to make here is the second year, it was almost like a do or die situation for me.
yeah,
So with just around 6 months of work experience, which is also not considered, I had to score above a 99.5 or 99.6 to get into one of the top IIMs or any of the top B schools, basically.
yeah,
So it was a required for me because the previous year I had lost out on a lot of calls, even having been at 99.5.
yeah, yeah.
So the ask was much higher this time around, and given the previous year how it had gone, I wanted to do my best this time around.
And I have seen a
But
lot
the
of people
mistake
go
I did
like
was,
first attempt mein they have scored higher percentile and second attempt mein they have scored low.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
Nirmal also had similar thing like he got
could
higher
be, yeah,
percentile in the first attempt and second. Yeah,
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 yeah.
continue. I'm just pitching.
So, but the point here is, I think it all depends on the mindset it creates. So, the second year, the pressure was too much. I basically did. So even that sectional test, which I said that 15th October 15th to 30th, which I took,
Hmm.
even those, I think at the very end, it kind of added to a lot of pressure. Basically, the previous
Hmm.
year around, that wasn't the case. But
Okay.
overall, from a mocks perspective, I was very worn out by the time CAT arrived, and therefore I was not able to perform my best in terms of the DILR section in the second year CAT, basically.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you that was also because of the fact that the 2 weeks before the examination, my DILR scores were dropping also in the mocks.
Hmm.
So it basically created a mindset thinking me like that made me think that I must not be doing good in DILR.
Okay.
Thankfully, the QA questions that I practiced went well, so therefore I went with a positive mindset for QA, and it happened well.
Yeah.
So the ideal candidate, what they should be doing is they should be revising their best towards the last week or two of the examination. But what I would strongly advise against is two things. Two, one, take too many mocks in the last 2 weeks or too many sectional tests in the last 2 weeks, because anything negative that happens in those tests could have a bearing on the mindset with which you go into the examination. That
Yeah.
is one. Second thing is, of course, I think it's implied by now, but never start a concept or never work on your weak areas in the last few weeks. Don't think that you will be able to work on your weak areas in the very end because you're strong in the other areas. Rather, focus more on strengthening even further the areas which you're strong in. Let go of the weak areas, because there is always a choice where you can leave those questions which are coming from the areas that you're weak in.
Yeah.
So I think there should be a clear distinction there. You cannot pick all the apples. You can only pick the apples which are closest to you.
Wow. 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 Wow.
So that's
Wow.
that's 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 the point here.
Yeah, I'll pitch in here also in terms of, the approach in terms of practice. So see here, it depends on you as a person. Okay. So if you analyze my approach, I thought I was not a person who will be like, after seeing a lesser score, I'll be a worried man.
Yeah.
I was not that kind of a person. So I did take a lot of, not, I won't say proper mocks and everything, but I've taken mocks as like kind of a practice. So rather than just
Hmm.
focusing on maybe the percentile or maybe the scores or the pressure of the time and everything, I attempted those questions as normal questions so that I'll
Hmm.
get cat level kind of questions, but at the same time, I'm revising my concepts. And I was
Hmm.
not at all bothered about the scores, but overall, yeah, if you take a mock in very serious manner, everything, it will affect. And I won't advise that, especially like last 1 week or anything. But still, I know a friend who took a mock, I think sectional mock. one day before CAT, and I think his
Mhm.
score came negative in VARC,
Oh
and
my God.
he was thinking, okay, what will I do? And guess what happened in CAT on CAT day? He scored 98 percentile in VARC. So that can also happen. So it
Yeah,
all depends on the
true.
person. But yeah, like you mentioned, it is better mostly to not touch upon your mocks and all, try your luck on that rather than just focus on
Yeah,
practicing and revising the concepts in that kind of thing. And I think
correct. I
mindset
think it's
wise,
about
yeah,
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 sticking to the comfort zone, basically. If mocks are your comfort zone, stick to mocks. If you're
yeah,
very good in doing mocks, I think they should still keep continue doing mocks, analyzing the weak areas if they are not so bothered about it.
yeah.
But for people like me, for whom the pressure built up to the
Mm.
fag end of the examination, I think at that time it's better to cool down on the mocks, take a chill pill, revise the areas which you have been weak in the past, and also summarize your concepts better. That is all it goes on.
Got it. It's mostly like do everything that will be, comfortable for you. Don't change your
Yeah.
normal stuff. And which brings us to the mindset part. I think this is something that I don't know how many people will agree to this. I find CAT as a very, tricky exam. Even though you know everything, you might not get through. Even though you know very less, you might go through. But if you know how to crack it and get through it and consider it as just an exam and strategically, operate it, that will be your victory. That is what I felt, and that's why I believe mindset is a huge thing. And we have touched upon a lot of things throughout our conversation on mindset. But yeah, bro, like preparing for the D-Day and getting ready for CAT, how was your mindset? And even throughout the exam, like when you already mentioned that you had a not that great kind of a DLR section, but still you have to move on to Quant, you have to score there.
Yeah,
So
correct.
parts one, the mindset leading to the D-Day, and also the mindset you try to keep throughout the D-Day exam. So in that kind of an exam. Yeah.
First of all, completely agree with you on the point that CAT is a mind-focused examination. I completely agree with your statement saying that you will know all the concept and yet you will end up scoring really poorly compared to what you had been doing in the mocks. And a good example is me, in fact. All my mocks, I scored a series of 99.7 to 99.8.
Hmm.
And I was expecting something on that range and ended up with a 99.3. And there have been people who hardly took 5 or 6 marks, ended up with 99.8 and 99.9, etc. So it's about how personal you take the examination.
Hmm.
So I'll compare two bits here. First, I think I've already spoken about this. First year, I was not extremely serious about it because there were other bigger problems going on around me. So therefore, I kind of took a shot at CAT. I knew my concepts. I'm not saying that I didn't know my concepts, but
Hmm.
I wasn't extremely serious about getting into a B school that year. So
Got
if
it.
you say my seriousness quotient was around just an 80 percentage compared to the soaring 120 percentage, it was the second year around.
Hmm. Yeah.
So therefore, I think the mindset was pretty relaxed. I went in there, gave whatever I could recollect, gave my best shot at CAT that year. I was relaxed the entire period. I was like, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, maybe next year.
Yeah.
But the second year around, it I took a lot of it personally because the previous year's rejections were that painful that I was not totally ever able to move on from that, basically.
Hmm.
So I did not want to undergo such a scenario once again. So I did not want to land up in a situation where I'd be getting a subpar or a mediocre percentile, not talking
Hmm.
about lesser percentage, but percentage which will not get me calls from IIMs. Okay, so something which I will not be able to be proud of while people around me will be saying that it's a good score. So I
Hmm.
didn't want to land up in that range. So there was a lot of pressure building up around that time. It was either going to be a 99.5 plus or nothing at all.
Okay.
But I think that was what worked counterintuitively. So even though my concepts were clear, even though QA was going very fine, even though VARC was doing very good, I told about the DILR hiccups that happened in the very end. But overall, my mindset was I was under a lot of pressure during the D-Day, like before the D-Day also.
Hmm.
So on the D-Day, I kind of tried to keep a cool mindset and go inside. But after VARC, it was all fine. But after DILR, I did have a period for about 5 minutes when I was not able to overcome whatever was going on in DILR. But thankfully, what happened was by the time that 40 minutes ended, I knew that I had given up on DALR. So that last 5 to 10 minutes in the DALR section, I knew that I couldn't solve anything more than this. I
Hmm.
had to do it in QA only. So I had given up at that point. So therefore, the realization did not come after the section was done. It came as and when the section was going on itself.
Hmm.
Therefore, when I was able to go to QA, I was able to start off with a fresh mind.
Got it.
So that's what happened during the examination, which kind of helped me with both QA as well as VARC.
Hmm.
But the point here is to not take things a lot personally. Just like you said, just because you are having a poor section doesn't mean that you will be faring poorly in the entire examination.
Right.
So even if you get an 82 or an 83 percentile, if you get 99 plus percentiles in both VARC and your QA, you will still be above the sectionals of most of the colleges,
Mm.
while at the same time also scoring a 99.5 or a 99.6. I've known multiple people like that who had a very terrible one section, but they had extraordinary other two sections basically. And their overalls were pretty good to get them into IMABC itself.
Right. And even in this
So
particular point,
therefore,
bro,
yeah,
like in
yeah,
my case as well, I was a person who was mostly, I didn't had a strong section as per se. Like I was kind of
yeah,
okay in all three sections. I was getting around 93, 94 percentile in the
yeah,
mocks and all the sections. So, but DLR being my strong foot, I was aram se solving two sets at least. But on the D
yeah,
day, my DLR was terrible. Like I couldn't solve properly. And I thought like
yeah,
even in my mind, the thought was like, okay, what is the point now attempting sorry, the QA session? Because I won't clear the sectional cutoff for this. So anyway, if I'm scoring overall percentile of X or Y, it doesn't make any sense. But then I thought,
yeah,
okay, what will happen? Like, let's see. Like, and then I went on to that flow with the QA, and guess what happened? So this is why, like, even though we think, okay, we have fucked one section, to be honest, and maybe in the results point of view that might not be somewhat screwed up. So in my DLR case,
yeah,
all the questions that I attempted was right, to my luck.
yeah,
And in the when the results came, my percentage is kind of good, 93, 94% I got in DLR, which I thought was one of the horrible, even though I thought I won't clear the 75 percentile cutoff itself.
mm, mm,
It can
mm, mm.
turn the other way around, so we don't know what will happen.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And towards the D-Day, I think one specific point I have to mention here is in terms of the mock taking and also getting you ready biologically for the exam. So I don't know how many people relate to this. I whatever I think the cat attempts, both the cat attempts I had attempted, it was a morning slot for me. And it's a
Yeah,
9 a.m. slot. You have to be there by 8. If the center is kind of far, you have to start early. And I was not at all a morning person. So what I did was I started waking up early. I tried
mm,
to make up my biological clock as per the cycle, because otherwise I will go there after reading the first passage, I'll be dosing out on that particular thing. So that is one suggestion I will give. So try taking your next mocks maybe in the same slot. And if you're not a
same
morning
start. Yeah,
person, if you're not a morning person, just try to wake up early. Try to make
yep,
your mind, fresh. And that is it. I think the if you are keeping your mind fresh and cool, a lot of people have, different kind of tension,
yep,
lot of like things that you mentioned. Even I had some pressure and everything. But at that point of time, in the 2 hours, if you can leave everything outside and focus just on that particular question, maybe it's very easy to say like this, but I don't know how much it will be, in practical aspect. But again, that's the session in terms of mindset, I guess. Yeah. But yeah,
true.
Murli, like now we are at the end of this particular discussion. So
Yeah.
overall, like what will you say in just maybe 30 seconds or something? One piece of not
Just
advice, just like a recommendation maybe from your side.
so I think people here who are taking CAT, they have been through a lot of other things. All of them are people with work experience. They have gone through terrible managers, bad conditions, working conditions, harsh working hours and everything. So CAT isn't the worst thing that is going to happen to you. And even I'm not saying that you will not be doing well, but even if you don't, it doesn't matter. You have a lot of options for an MBA. And cat is not the end of the world, and that is something that I had to learn the hard way after taking it for 2 years. It's not the end of the world,
Mm.
totally, in my opinion. So just keep a clean mind, So it's not going to be the last thing that you're ever going to do. You are meant for, everyone is meant for good things. So I think just go in there with an open mind, take questions at a stride, and whatever works for you, let it work for you. And whatever doesn't, just let go of it, put it behind you. Don't keep mulling on it after the exam, also. That's going to really, really mess up your mind. So just have a chill pill. You will do fine.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think he pretty much covered everything. Yeah. And like we have tried to cover some of the things mostly that will be coming in your mind, but feel free to
Yeah.
comment if you have anything that, you know, is something that is haunting you and maybe need some guidance and everything. Me or Murli will be happy to have, you know, a comment on or reply on that particular aspect. So do drop in your comments if you have any particular doubts. But again, thanks, man, like for having this particular session. I know it was being postponed quite a lot, and finally we have done it. I still don't know when I'll edit this and upload, but yeah, I'll try to post it as soon as possible for the benefit of the
Sure,
people who
sure,
will be
sure.
having this. But again, thanks, man. I hope it will be a good cat this time around. A lot of people, you know, actually convert their dream peacefully, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too. Wishing you all the best. And thanks,
Okay.
Gokul. Thanks for giving me this opportunity.
No worries, bro. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks. Thank
thank
you,
you.
folks.
See ya. Bye bye.
This is Gokul Vishnu and Murli Krishna. Let's see
Murli,
this video.
signing
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.